Hey guys, something completely new today. We're gonna do a raw Riff version of what is the best way to live in Sarasota, Florida, off the top of the head, conversations I have every day. Please stick around. I think this will add you some value.
And for those that don't know me real quick, I'm Adam Hancock. I have a real estate group here in Southwest Florida, and I post daily video content on Florida relocation and investment guidance. Please like and subscribe for access to over 100 videos in the last 12 months and counting.
All right, guys, I wanted to mix it up a little bit today, and we're gonna do it in a couple ways. As you can see, we took it to the streets. We're walking around downtown Sarasota area. And then this video is gonna be a little bit more of like a live riff. So I'm asked really similar questions a lot, and a lot of it's related to kind of based on your criteria of when you look at the Sarasota area. And when you look at the Sarasota area, you're really considering, I mean, holistically, you're considering Sarasota County and Manatee. So, you know, it's a Venice conversation, it's a Sarasota city limits conversation, it's Manatee County conversation where most of Lakewood Ranch is. And it's basically like for $450,000, where do I go? What do I do? What are all the options, right? So it's a best version of living in Sarasota, Florida, but it's based on your criteria may point you somewhere. You may have a criteria where you have multiple options and you're picking based on style. And, it can translate a lot of different ways. So I wanted to kind of, this is more of like a download from my brain. And I have these conversations a lot on the phone with clients and prospective clients, but I wanted to kind of do it in an evergreen way because it's such a commonality, you know? So it could vary by price, but Sarasota is somewhat simplistic in how it's broken up. All right, so that's the idea. So basically when people are looking at Sarasota, and this could be a Sarasota versus a Collier, Lee County, and Naples, Bonita Springs. This could be a Sarasota versus a Tampa, Pinellas County, north of us. It could be all these type of things, right? So I think this is basically you packaging what's the best version of you living in that city based on your style, right? So not everybody's style is the same, but there's a best version for everyone. And sometimes your criteria will make you make intentional sacrifices to that best version. But in knowing that in advance means like it's not necessarily you sacrificing, it's you knowing and making a choice of this is the best version for us, right? So the way Sarasota is majorly broken up, somewhat simplistic, like I mentioned. So you basically have the suburbs. You have the downtown historic district. You have the barrier islands of the beaches. You have south and north fringes. And then you have everything else. I'm gonna get a little deeper into all of these, but that's basically how we break it up. And then it very much will point you in a direction based on what you like. Okay, so what I basically wanna do is I wanna take that broad idea and I want to kind of break it down like how I would on the phone with someone particularly, but I'm going to keep it a little bit more in an evergreen way because I don't have the detail and the context to an individual person. So basically, if you say like, okay, I have $550,000, I want a pool, I like this kind of stuff, I want good schools, where do I go, right? So let's talk suburbs first. So the suburbs when I say Sarasota, like if you're coming to Sarasota and that's how you view moving here, you're 100% considering Manatee County. Holistically, that's probably just Sarasota, Manatee County. But what you're looking at is you're basically looking at a Lakewood Ranch, which is northeast of Sarasota. I'm going to talk a little bit more about each one. You're going to look at a Palmer Ranch, which is south of downtown. And you're going to look at a Venice as a separate kind of entity to that just because of its location, right? And there's values and pluses to each, right? So first talking about Lakewood Ranch. Lakewood Ranch is northeast of downtown. Like I said, a lot of it's east of the interstate, right? So the closest community in Lakewood Ranch might be 20-ish minutes from the beach in your windward and your water sides of the world. There's 29 villages, holistically planned. The oldest house in there was built in '96. Very new. It feels like Pleasantville. Because the newness of it and how it's evolved over the years is just, it's smarter, right? So there's world-class amenities in each neighborhood. There's shared amenities amongst them. There's public parks. It feels like one thing, right? So that's kind of Lakewood Ranch in a nutshell. It offers a lot, and people that really love new and they love that suburb feeling thing, Lakewood Ranch is a great fit. If you also like a lot of the stuff Sarasota has to offer, like the beaches and the downtown and that kind of thing, something you can consider, because this community as a whole is very eastern and it's very northern. So now granted, our downtown is north of, it's in the northern part of Sarasota, right? It's not central, it's northern. So, but you're talking at least 25-ish minutes Even the closest community is probably in there now, but a lot of the communities sit 40 minutes away from the coast and the beach. So that's something to consider there. Okay, and then beyond Lakewood Ranch, we have Palmer Ranch. Palmer Ranch is in South Sarasota, and a lot of people are comparing the Palmer Ranch versus Lakewood Ranch just because of the proximity. And Palmer Ranch also sits south. So the main thing there is like it's south of downtown, where Lakewood Ranch is northeast of downtown. A lot of Palmer Ranch sits inside Interstate 75, so it's overall more western of a community. Now, the biggest kind of differences there is Palmer Ranch is much older. So there's brand new communities for sure, but it's much older of a community. So the way that it's evolved over time and developed and kind of been pieced together is a great way to think about it, because it doesn't feel like you're in one big place like Lakewood Ranch does. It feels like you might be weaving in and out of South Sarasota and not quite know where you're at. You might be in Vamo, you might be in Gulfgate, you might be in Sarasota Springs, you're hopping in and out of Palmer Ranch. You're a mix of mature communities and random neighborhoods amongst brand new communities. So if you like that kind of like all-in-one holistic bubble, Palmer Ranch might not be the jam for you. It's got a lot more like really nice individual amenities and communities, but it doesn't feel as holistic as Lakewood Ranch. Now, the pros of it are, it's, like I said, it's western. It's closer to Siesta Key. It's parallel to Siesta Key. A lot of it's southern, so it's a little bit more happy medium. Hold on, there's a truck. A little bit more happy medium of, if you don't want to lose access to stuff, right? So a lot of Sarasota's value proposition is not getting too far from anything, in my mind. So Palmer Ranch very much puts you in the middle of Venice and Sarasota. So you're going to be maybe in the right spot. You're 10 minutes from downtown Sarasota, 10 minutes from downtown Venice. That's a really great way to live in Sarasota. It's just the housing thing isn't as easy. You know, Lakewood Ranch is somewhat easy. It's really easy to get your head around. It's really easy for me to explain remotely. Palmer Ranch is a little bit different, but if you can get in the right area, that's kind of the value proposition of South Sarasota. And the last main one when I talk about suburbs is I always talk about Venice kind of separately than Lakewood Ranch or South Sarasota, just because of where it's at on a map and kind of the pros and cons to it. So what I definitely know about Venice is people that love Venice are romantic about it. It's a special spot. I mean, the downtown Venice, it's not hugging barrier islands like Siesta Key and Longboat Key. So the entire downtown district feels so coastal. It's right there. It's a quarter mile from the beach to the main district. Amazing school districts, both in South Sarasota and Venice. Venice High, Laurel Nokomis, Venice Middle, really nice schools. And Welland Park's a really interesting development. You know, I pitch a lot because it's kind of like a Waterside and Lakewood Ranch. It's got its own downtown. It's holistic. Lakewood Ranch has 29 total neighborhoods. Welland Park's 9. But what you're getting on Venice is you're getting a huge cost savings for the most part. The way to save money in Sarasota is to go on the fringes. It's to go south, it's to go east, it's to go north. You see where all the new developments are coming because of land. They're going east and they're going on the fringes. Like Parrish is popular because of Lakewood Ranch's explosion. Englewood eventually is coming along because of South Venice's explosion. Northport's popular because of the proximity to all the other stuff people want to get close to, but a cost savings. So Sarasota's value proposition, and a lot of towns, is the value and the prices go to where people want to be close to the actual stuff that people deem as Sarasota's most important. And a lot of that's going to exist around the downtown Sarasota district and the main beach corridor of South Lido, North Siesta Key. All of that hugs this like little tiny 3 to 4 mile square miles strip. So that's kind of how Venice is positioned, right? So you can say you're going to save money. Venice is a different world, right? It's quaint. I love it. I mean, it's really attractive, but lifestyle wise, it doesn't fit for everyone, right? It's 45 minutes south of downtown Venice to downtown Sarasota. So if you go to Venice, you're going to be a Venice person, in my opinion. You're not going to be putting back and forth all the time. A Palmer Ranch, South Sarasota, is a great happy medium for that conversation because you sit in the middle and you're starting to kind of get the value of that proximity. But that's kind of what I would say about that. So that's kind of what, those are all framed in their own value propositions amongst each other. The good thing is that they're so different from each other that typically criteria is going to point you at a starting point. And then when you see them in person, the boots on the ground perspective is going to give you a visceral reaction to one or the other. And then you can get deeper, and the housing part's somewhat simplistic once you know what area you like. So that's kind of how I'd sum up the suburbs. Let me talk a little bit more context about the other areas of Sarasota. Okay, so the suburb conversation is, you know, it's one of the most pleasant ways to relocate from out of state. Because of the controllability of the timeline and the resale market's really tricky right now. But then you have the person that says, well, I like eclectic. I want to move to Sarasota because of the art culture, and I want to be close to the coast, and that's why I don't want to live in New York, and I hate the suburbs, right? I don't want the bubble. Like, I don't want to wave to every neighbor every time I come down the street. There's a lot of folks like that, and so the Sarasota side of that is downtown Sarasota is kind of the romantic district to people. It's Laurel Park. It's where I'm at now. You know, it's walkability, and it's restaurants, and it's you know, it's quaint, it's awesome, right? It's historical, and you got that whole vibe. If that's what you like. Now the problem with that is, like, it's like any city, right? It's perceived value, and because of location, right? It's evergreen intangibles that aren't going to go away, and people will pay a premium for that. And then what's that? You know, who determines that tier, right? So it's close to the downtown, it's close to the water, it's close to the beach. That stuff's evergreen as far as what people consider. The way I kind of view the shopping buckets at the moment, like, you know, under $1 million, honestly, the suburbs might be the best way to spend that money. Even if you're not a suburb person, the most intangible based suburb that's close to the coast as you could possibly get, that money's going to go a lot further, like a Waterside or a Welland Park, right? You're, you know, 15, 20 minutes from the coast, but you have a full downtown built in there, and you have, you know, 2,800 square feet, stuff that you're not gonna be able to achieve west, right? So, but if you want to, say you want, like, that's not you, right? You want to go west of the trail or east of the trail. So the trail is US 41. It runs right along basically the closest mainland you can get where you're not on the barrier island is a little strip of land that's west of Interstate 41 or whatever, 41. So the tricky part about that is right now, like, because that you're not going to get any closer to that coast, and because of people really feel like they get that value proposition from the Northeast and that kind of thing, it's such a minute area of, like, McClellan Park and Oyster Bay and all these little areas that are just like this. They're close to everything, right? They're selling teardown homes in there from $500,000 to $700,000 now. So to do that right, I think the struggle is that, I mean, I think it really takes about $1.5 million plus to do anything near that. Now, I mean, there's shades of gray, right? Like, North Siesta Key has a lot of really interesting opportunities for $1 million, $900K. You can do condos randomly in places with high fees and that kind of thing. But I think just generally shopping, if you're breaking up the districts, that area has got a little bit dicier schools as far as, like, actual ratings. And you have just less house for the money, a little closer to the coast. So I think that's kind of how to frame that, but it does take a good chunk there. I mean, I think $750,000 doesn't do much damage there. That's my opinion of shopping it around. And then that's a resale market, right? Like, that's not a bunch of new developments popping around. So if resale's tight, like, people are paying a premium, and it's not a great way to shop at the moment. But again, like, the reason for that is because they're not going to build more houses that close. So possibly doing an urban infill, or maybe going on the fringes of, like, Sapphire Point by Ringling, or like southwest of Trail, like Vamo area, of getting further. But you kind of get the old school real estate dynamics. If you get further from the stuff that people want to be close to, you're gonna save money, but you're gonna take a sacrifice in quality. So that's how I kind of frame up that piece. So okay, the other major way, one of the other major ways that you can kind of get your head around to live in the Sarasota area would be the barrier islands. So you have Siesta Key, 8 mile end to end, including Turtle, Crescent, and Siesta Key Beach, with a myriad of condos, single families, rental market. You have Lido and Longboat Key. You have Holmes Beach, Nana Maria Island, and Bradenton Beach. You have Casey Key to the south, that with Casperson Beach and Venice Beach, and you have all that. So the beaches right now, like, I've done a lot of content on the beaches, so make sure you check out my market report playlist. But the beaches right now, your problem is, if you're a single family house person, your price range is going to be, your average is going to be quite up there, right? But you got, I mean, a lot of the cool thing about the barrier islands, they're beach to bay, right? So you might be able to go on the bay for a lot cheaper than the beach, and then just hop across the street or whatever. So the other major way is, like, when you narrow, are you west? Like, most people are, like, the cool thing is it's one or the other, right? Like, a lot of people aren't shopping west of the trail as well as the beaches, because a lot of folks don't want to be stuck on the beach to come off. If you are a beach person, you want to live on that island, you want to stay on that island, you want just some accessibility to travel off, then there's smart ways of doing that, and there's some affordability surrounding that. But that's kind of how I would bucket that. Just, you know, there's a wormhole, we could go down there. But that's, like, you have the suburbs, you have kind of downtown urban eclectic, not beach, not suburbs. and then you have the beaches as completely separate. And then I would frame everything else as everything else I'm going to talk about in a moment, and then we'll wrap up. So let's talk everything else. So the weird thing about Sarasota is when you shop, most of my folks are relocation, investment, they're out of state, right? They're shopping. A lot of people are really familiar with Sarasota. But the problem is with Sarasota is there's like, what I just explained was what you can get your head around, right? That's scientific. I could tell you over the phone exactly what that market is, everything that's happened with it, the evolution of it, everything. And you can shop that and not be that disappointed when you get here. It's not gonna be that different than what I said in person or online or whatever. And then you have everything else. So Sarasota is a mix of really definable housing and then a bunch of older neighborhoods that have been pieced together. And these would be, there's definitely communities, but they're not gated communities in the traditional sense. So South Sarasota, for instance, Gulf Gate, Sarasota Springs, Ridgewood, you have all these random neighborhoods that are this resale market from 280K to 500K, just pieced together over time. You have north of downtown, the university area, Palm Air, you have all these older areas, right by the University Mall, and which are unbelievable spots on a map. That's the crazy part, is like all these places are closer to the coast than a lot of Palmer Ranch, most of Lakewood Ranch, but they just need to change hands in a resale market. And that's where you see like urban infill building, which is an interesting opportunity. So that would be your perfect mix of like, I want a newer house and efficiency of that, but I want to be closer to stuff in a mature neighborhood. This would be where you find the no HOAs, the no Ds, the no CDDs, because they're so mature. You could park your boat in your yard, you could have an RV. This is where you're going to see that market. South Venice is the same. But what's problem with that is like, that's really hard to shop remotely. So that's a resale market. Most of those you're looking at resale listings, and then that's pointing you at a neighborhood, and then you're vetting that out. And kind of like shopping a lot of Tampa, it's street to street. You're saying, is there 3 good streets together? What do the other ones sell for? Am I overpaying in that respect? But you're not saying like Lakewood Ranch, like you know everything about one community by just almost looking online pretty much. So that's everything else in Sarasota. So like a lot of people are comparing and contrasting that resale market in a small vicinity versus new construction of the same facet. And to me right now, new construction is by far the more efficient buy, because the resale market's rather overpriced, 1. And 2, if you're using financing of any sort, almost impossible to win a deal under 500K. Anything decent, if it has a pool, forget about it. There's like 100 million offers on everything. And it's all cash. So if you're financing, you don't have a shot in a lot of realms. So that's kind of how, like, if you come to Sarasota, that's kind of how you look at it, right? So you got to kind of know the value prop of the different parts of town majorly. And once you know that, then the house part becomes somewhat simple. So this is kind of a conversation I have a lot about, like I said at the beginning, this is a conversation I have a lot about how to look at the Sarasota area, right? So the cool thing about this is if you get what you're looking at, I think this is about a spot on a map. So like I have the conversation a lot about Bonita Springs and Estero and North Naples versus Sarasota County. And I think it's like, what would you rather be? Would you rather be closer to Miami and the Keys, Boca Raton, West Palm Beach, or would you rather be closer to St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay, that kind of thing? You know, and some people want access to the airport. Like Venice puts you kind of in no man's land where you're not close to Fort Myers Airport and you're not that close to Tampa. So Lakewood Ranch would be way closer to the 75 corridor. So anyway, I know this is a riff, kind of a stream of consciousness from my brain, but it's a conversation I have a lot. I think it's contextually, it makes a lot of sense if you're in the right place to hear it. And anyway, I just wanted to mix it up a little bit. Just wanted to kind of try to get across a lot. I mean, I have these conversations, it feels like 5 times a day now. So I wanted to see if there was a way that I could position it where maybe people that aren't going to call but want to watch, it could be helpful too. So anyway, if I can do anything for you, let me know. Stick around for the end. I'll drop some links and that kind of thing of some similar content, and hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will have a video on Monday.